looked at in the past in terms of them changing the blue laws here in the Virgin Islands. The church has been very active. The group rather that has now found Onevoice has been very active and is looking right now presently concerning the gambling. We have stepped in and been at the legislature concerning that our voice in terms of the ills that is happening in the community. Like if what happens on the 28th, if they pass that bill over in over in St. Croix to allow gambling without standing hotels and what have you, we have families and aunts and nieces and what have you that have swindled their money away.
Absolutely.
And their mortgage away and what have you, and then it's causing the problem in Nevada and different places, and the statistics concerning what gambling does for society, and in such a small place like the Virgin Islands with just 115,000 people, the effect that is happening already, and to increase more. This is something that we are looking at. It's not a background.
I'm very glad to hear.
And we know that there's something coming up on the 28th that we are presently looking at, but it just so happened that right now Onevoice is having to deal something that we are out front right now about not changing the code.
I happen to have really strong feelings about children that are raised either in families where parents really don't like each other, and the damage that does to children, because it does tremendous damage to children. And I believe really strongly that whether or not parents are living together, that every child deserves the involvement of both parents.
I agree.
And I find it tragic to look around this community at the number of young people who say, I don't have a father. Of course you have a father. You may not know him. Your mother may or may not know who he is, but you have a father, and you have a right to have that person in your life. And I would love to see the church become involved in those issues.
If I might just say quickly in terms of the statistic, and I know some people will say, well, in many cases, sometimes we're preaching to the choir, but every time a family goes to church on a Sunday, a Monday, a Saturday, or what have you, go to their religion, they are marching. They are marching in those moral rights, in terms of those values in family and what have you. When we go out with our families, take our kids and not take them, go with them to the different religious organizations. We are on a march.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that concept very much.
No, because someone will say that we're preaching to the choir, and in many cases, it seems like we're preaching to the choir when we're in the pulpit and what have you. But the church is out there when you are doing what you're supposed to do in the different, not just the churches, but in the different religious groups and what have you, and there's family involved, and you're taking care of your family, and you're supporting your children, and you're supporting your wife that you have these children with, and what have you, and you're supporting this is part of the march that, of course, yes, has decayed, but it's not that the church is quote unquote.
No, I'm not trying to fault the church, but I think there is something wrong with the community that because it appears as if we are condoning this behavior when we look around, and I don't know about you, I can point out any great number of people in prominent positions who have multiple partners openly, who are in political office, who are running for political office,
and they are voted in,
and they are voted up, and the number of women who have multiple children and have never been married and are in prominent positions. I think we're condoning that.
Well, it goes back all the way to Governor Von Scholten, and we all know about Anna Hagag, and this community have inherited some things in itself by nurture.
Well, may I make one comment?
Of course.
I think the difference that you're seeing now, many churches individually have always taught about these issues, but what's different now is that we've come together and say one voice. And to see the unity makes a big impact because there's strength in unity. And now some people are getting upset because we're saying one voice. There's a lot of people behind this one voice.
I want to get back to that because, as Father knows, I've been working in the domestic violence community for many years, and we have never been able to get that kind of church support to come out against domestic violence. The one voice that you're speaking of. We've had coalitions, but they never took. They never stuck. They never really came together and said, the church is saying. But we'll get to that. The phones are ringing. Let's get to our callers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. Good morning, doctor. Good morning to your
Good morning.
audience. Good morning to the panel.
Yes.
Good morning.
I was going to say, that sexual immorality is the last step on the way down.
Yes.
When a nation loses its ability or territory or island to discern some basic sexual morality, I think that's the last step down. Say that America is in a crisis. Unless we have a moral rebirth, we will join the graveyard of the nations. Gibbon wrote about the rise and the fall of the Roman Empire.
Well, there has never been a democracy that has endured longer than 200 years. Look at that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
And the Roman Empire came crashing down, and Gibbon said that the number one on the list of things that destroyed Rome was sexual immorality.
You're right.
It has been said that Rome dug her grave with her feet, killed herself with illicit sex, embalmed herself with alcohol. And I'm sad to say we don't have a moral report. One day, an historian may write the rise and the fall of the American Empire.
Okay.
Let me say this. Be it in the church, be it in the government, be it in the legislature or in the government house, no man or woman is morally fit for leadership who is sexually impure. I'm not talking just about homosexuals.
No, I hear you.
And adultery.
Yes, I hear you.
The whole bad.
I hear you.
So it's foolish to say, like I've heard, it's foolish to say that character and leadership are not synonymous. And I'm concerned because I don't know what my grandchildren what will have to accept in the future. But the truth is that sin, I don't know the word, but sin is the object of God's displeasure. God hates sin. His judgment on sin is a reflection of His holiness. And we have a generation that like to spin, but don't like the word sin.
Well, I think it's more than one generation.
The word sin is out of date, and the only sin today is to call sin sin. We want to call it anything. We want to call it a mistake, a misjudgment, an error. But let me just say this to close.
Well,
Jesus did not die for a mistake. He didn't die for a misjudgment. He didn't die for an error. He died for sin. Psychologists try to tell us that man is not wicked, he is weak. That man is not sinful, he is sick. So I say, and I don't have anything against, because we all miss the mark somehow or the other. But I think that our leadership has to really come in adjustment and alignment to the word of God. That is what I think is important.
Okay.
I say it again, I say it. It's foolish to say that character and leadership are not synonymous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dr. Kern, and yes,
Good morning.
very good program. I just have a question or two, if I have the time, for mostly the male speakers there, but I want to compliment the lady on her dedication and research, and the gentleman, but my feelings and thoughts and ideas on the matter are more in keeping with what Dr. Kern has expressed than the Onevoice group. But here's my question. On the research side of things, has anyone, the lady or anyone else, checked to see how many in the last year or two marriage licenses we have in the U.S. Virgin Islands for heterosexual couples, and the children born of those? It would be interesting, and maybe Senator Buckley didn't have this intention, but her introduction of this highly controversial bill, I think, has caused the religious groups, including the one on your program now, to unite and to start discussing what is a threat to the island and Caribbean community in general. And I'm much in agreement with Dr. Kern I think we have to worry more not about same-sex lovers, but unwed mothers, and I think there's general agreement in the group about that. Let me ask this. Is one of the gentlemen Father O'Connor or Father Connor?
Connor.
Yes, that's Father.
May I ask you, Father Connor, what your church is?
That's the Orthodox Church, St. Mark Coptic Orthodox Church.
Can you say again?
St. Mark Coptic Orthodox Church.
Okay. Are your priests allowed to marry?
Of course, yes.
Yes, they are.
Okay, that's fine.
And it wasn't just because
what do you think about some of the Anglican churches who also have fathers, as do Catholic churches, which I'm a Catholic?
You're a Roman Catholic, excuse me, you're a Roman Catholic.
Yes.
Are you saying you're a Roman Catholic? Because I'm Catholic.
Yes, I'm sorry, we all Catholic. Holy Catholic Church. What is your view of some Anglican groups or churches permitting gay or gay clergy, bishop, priest, whatever?
Like we say, my view is that, but it happens to be my view or my belief at the same token. But we know there are some sectors of like I said, we don't have our head in the sand. We're not. There are some groups that even call themselves Christian or some type of religious group that do have the view and embrace.
Do you think that's wrong?
From a Judeo-Christian standpoint, yes. We have a matter.
They're from that standpoint.
Mind you, in the Virgin Islands, in terms of, like, for instance, the Anglican Church, we know quite well, even in the Roman Catholic Church, this is not their view by doctrine and in.
Okay, second question for the male participants. One of you said to a caller earlier, and I appreciate and I feel the sincerity of that approach, that you don't hate those that are identified as homosexuals. You have some in your own family. Was that you, Father Connor, or the other gentleman?
No, that was me, Apostle Warren.
May I ask him how that person, how close, a third cousin or brother or pardon?
First cousin.
And do you feel, without getting too personal and revealing family secrets or anything, what has been discussed by your group with Dr. Kern and with Alma earlier, do you feel that person wasn't born that way, with some influence in the family, outside the family, or whatever else, but you still love him for what he is or isn't?
He wasn't born that way. There was influence, but let me say this.
How do you know he wasn't born that way, sir?
Because God didn't create us that way.
So you say.
So I say, and I stand upon it.
Yes.
And Matthew indicates, someone mentioned this earlier, in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus is telling his apostles, after he says, Moses, out of the hardness of your heart, allowed you easy divorce, but it wasn't that way from the beginning. It was one man and one woman. And then they said, well, this is a hard thing to do. Maybe it's better not to marry. Then Jesus talks about some men are born eunuchs from their mother's womb. Some are made that way by men. And others, if they can, choose that way as I think he was referring to celibacy for a greater good.
He was referring to a eunuch, but that's not homosexual.
Good. But Jesus was acknowledging, as some earlier in your discussions, either with Alma or Dr. Kern, that there are births that are abnormal. And
no, not birth. He didn't acknowledge that births are abnormal. People are birthed with a purpose.
Yes. Right. But you don't think that even though a person can be born abnormal that way, you don't think someone can be born apparently male but with a tendency towards female characteristics or vice versa?
No, I don't think they can be.
You think science backs you up on that, sir?
No, science doesn't back me up on that, and I'm not looking for science to back me up.
Okay. I really want to thank your dedication. I've been here 37 years. I don't go to all the churches, but I go to certain ones every Sunday and others on other occasions, and I listen to the preachers on the airways. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but one of you indicated that all the sermons have been against the broken families that Dr. Kern is talking about the families without marriage license at all. let alone homosexuals trying to have a license. I haven't heard them. Maybe you have, and it'd be good to hear some more of it. And I'll be listening to the Sunday and the other programs to see if members of our local clergy will bear you out. Because for years you have been preaching against the breakup of the home by this situation that we have here. I thank you very much. Unless you have some question to me, I'd like to thank Dr. Kern for having you again, and I recognize your dedication. I think it's a good thing, even though it came out in opposition to something that I think, as Dr. Kern says, will probably be decided in the federal courts. Thank you very much, folks. Bye-bye.
For calling, sir.
Thank you for your call. Would either of you like to respond further? Because I'm sure he's still listening.
Well, I'm saying that we have preached. Even if the gentleman could call me later on, I could send him a series that I have taught on the family God's way, and for a long period of time. And I'm not the only one. But we don't. When we teach about family, we don't just talk about homosexuality. We talk about everything that causes a family to become dysfunctional or not functioning according to the plan of God. There are many things that we can talk about. We can talk about how you discipline your child. You know, why does finances have such a big influence in the breakup of families and things like that? What's the issue between love and respect? All those things that the Bible teaches about family issues and how you should train up your children, and you should be an example first of what you want them to be, and even how you should select your mate. So there are many things that we talk about with family, and we deal with that.
But can you appreciate the point that both I made, and you responded to it, but that he's making in terms of the fact that perhaps it's time for us to see the same degree of energy from the churches placed on
those areas,
the lack of family unity.
Yeah.
The fact that too many men are having children without taking responsibility for those children. The fact that too many women are raising children without the input of the men. Whose children are half the child's genetic makeup belongs to the male. He deserves to be a part of that child's life. And I would like to see the church come out every bit as strongly about those issues and the perception. And again, you made a wonderful point that from the outside, I think that's why he called, because I may be from the outside, but he's not. And he said he hasn't seen it up close, and he'd like to see more of it.
I think it goes back to what I said earlier, too, when you made the comment first. I think outside of the Christian community, outside of the churches, you may think not.
Yes.
And I think now...
But he's saying he's from inside the community.
But he says he visits a few churches. He doesn't say he's a regular church goer.
No, he said he goes to a different church all the time. He doesn't go to the same church, but he goes to a church on a regular basis.
If he goes to church A on Sunday, the first Sunday, and he goes to church B on
he can miss it here or there.
He can miss it.
Okay.
But the point is, like I said, I think we need to be mindful, the church may have seen on the outside not to be as active in everyday life of the community. But I stand on the fact that I truly believe that this issue is a catalyst for the church to take its rightful place in the community and open up its doors even more to the community, helping community issues or revealing community issues and taking a stance on community issues. And I truly believe, I'm just going to put it out there, I truly believe that this speaking against gay marriages and the same-sex issue, I told Pastor Warren, I said, I believe that we're going to have people homosexuals coming to the church, probably in secret, and, to ask him, what do I need to do to be changed? Because I really probably didn't want to, live like this. How can I change? And I said, we have to prepare for that as well.
Absolutely.
Because it's not an issue we want to bash anybody.
I understand that, and I really appreciate that.
But I think we have to put it out there anyway. It's not a bashment per se.
Yes.
But we want to love people where they are, and we want to tell them there's another way that you can live and live better and live free in your mind and your body and in your spirit.
Yeah.
And we do have people coming, I mean, because of the ills and the missing of the mark of fornication and the out of wedlock and the adultery.
Yes,
and the pedophiliac, you know, I mean, the pedophiles and whatever. And it's, you know, the churches and the religious groups are stepping up on it, just like the judiciary is trying to step up on this. In terms, you see what's happening in the news every second. You hear somebody rape some young 8-year-old girl or some 14-year-old girl. It's all in the news and this type of stuff. And the other big radio talk show also was bringing in the lady.
Did you hear in India there was a 6-year-old child that was recently raped, and 4,000 people marched in protest to that rape? We have 6-year-olds raped every week, and I'm waiting for the march for people to say we will not tolerate this in our community.
I think you're kind of passive here, the community as a whole, but like I said, sometimes it seems like we're preaching to the choir when it comes to the church, because he would have to be actually going to that church twice or 3 times to pick up, you know, on the different things that they're preaching about. But yes, you're absolutely right.
I just got a remark that there are people backed up waiting to call in. So as much as I'm enjoying talking to you, let's keep our callers coming, and I'll try to limit how long they can talk as well. I didn't mean to cut you short, but we need to encourage our listeners, because I think this is something they really care about. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Iris, good morning, and good morning to your guest.
Good morning.
You know, a month ago, well, before I even start,
yes.
How close are we to the news?
We are less than 2 minutes.
Less than 2 minutes, okay.
A minute and a half. Let's say a minute and a half.
A minute and a half,
yes.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is if this dialogue continues beyond the news, which I am...
I mean, if you all can stay. Yes, it will.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to hold me over because I have a very important individual on the phone on the other line. Okay. I will introduce this person on the other side of the news. So let me preface what I'm going to say, and hopefully I won't get disconnected because it'll be impossible to get back in. But I'm going to say this. I want to commend your guests for coming on the air.
I very much appreciate it.
A month ago, I asked on this program in a very elaborate way, where are the churches? Where are the churches?
I recall you doing that.
And that it is. Hallelujah. There you are. There you are. So I'm going to hold you accountable to your new visibility and your ongoing stand.
Thank you.
And this particular situation shows why we need to be very careful who we select as our leadership.
Yes.
Yes.
And vet them very thoroughly, because Julie Buckley laid a real goose egg here. And this one's going to divide the community. It's going to separate the sheep from the goats. But here it is, you have 40 pastors, nearly 40 churches here, and that's got to be thousands of members in the congregations, and what a voting block that is.
Indeed.
What a voting block.
Okay,
so we can close, Iris?
Yep, it's just about time. We're going to take a news break. Thank you so much.
Okay, don't lose me now.
I won't lose you, I promise.
Okay.
It's another day in paradise with a welcome voice of the
line. I have with me an individual who I've mentioned before. And if we want to talk about putting a little bit of a turbo boost or a little extra wind beneath our wings this morning, I have on the line Mr. Brian Kamenker. And he is the founder and I guess the centerpiece of Mass Resistance, which is the umbrella to the website, massresistance.org, that I've mentioned on this program.
Yes.
And I've asked him to introduce himself and a little bit about Mass Resistance and help open our eyes a little bit more to the not only the homosexual agenda, but also some of the experiences that he has been engaged in terms of the battles around the planet, not just the United States, but other countries, and give some insight into the agenda and even the legislation that has been enacted to try to normalize the homosexual agenda, transgenderism, and so on within the schools. So I may not have done him justice, but without any further ado, Mr. Brian Kamenker, Mass Resistance, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Kamenker. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. As you mentioned, our organization, Mass Resistance, is based in Massachusetts. We've been around for over 18 years as a pro-family group. We have supporters, actually, we're active across the United States. We have supporters in every state and in several foreign countries. We've been involved from Australia to Singapore, in Europe, and on the continent of Africa, Jamaica, and recently Finland, and many other places, mostly on the gay marriage issue, which, as you know, pretty much started in Massachusetts. One of the things that I would encourage...
Wait. What are you suggesting started in Massachusetts?
The gay marriage issue, which, gay marriage started basically by Massachusetts Supreme Court ruling in 2003. And then in 2004, they started performing the gay marriages. And
okay, I just needed to put it in context. Thank you.
Oh, sure. And I think that it's important to see what's happened here in the 10 years since that's happened, because it's changed society here considerably in ways that we may not anticipate. It's changed certainly the public schools. It's changed, businesses, adoption and birth certificates, government mandates. Churches have been harassed terribly if they don't go along with this. There's a whole list of things which we've documented in a booklet available on our website, and also a video. But just to get involved with the public schools, I don't think a lot of people realize that if gay marriage is made legal, then it's required to be taught in the schools as if it was equivalent to normal marriage. In fact, a federal judge in federal district court in Boston ruled that when a parent of a kindergartner.
Can I just suggest, sir, may I just interrupt and suggest that rather than refer to it as normal marriage, refer to it as heterosexual marriage, because in fact, the psychologically, it has been determined from the psychological perspective that homosexuality is not abnormal. So just from that perspective, I'm not talking about the morality, I'm speaking about just the legality from that perspective. So let's talk about heterosexual marriage and homosexual marriage, if you don't mind.
I think that it's important, with all due respect, not to do that. And I was at the international convention of the American Psychological Association in 2008, when much of that was going on. It happened in Boston. And, this idea that homosexuality is normal has no basis in medicine or any legitimate, psychological, research. It's all about politics.
Did it emerge as a result of the physician's desk reference that homosexuality is no longer considered a diagnostic entity and it is considered normal behavior? So, irrespective of the history, that is the present reality. So let's be consistent.
I'm sorry, it's not the present reality. It's the opinion of these doctors, but I think you need to look at how that happened. It happened not through legitimate medical inquiry at all. It happened through basically a riot by gay activists. That's how it happened, and I think we have to be honest about that.
It was influence.
Well, I would certainly agree. We have to be honest about it. I have no argument at all about the need to be honest about it.
I mean, doctors have their biases as like anybody else.
Of course.
And they can use their influence as well.
Each person comes with their own biases, given the reality of their life and the experiences, and each of us constitutes every experience we've had in our lives. I mean, and the way we put those together and how we judge them each. So I have no difficulty with that. Please, let's go on though, because I want to get to the substance.
Right. Well, in any case, I think that it's important to understand the changes in society that happen.
Okay, please.
But basically, imposing gay marriage is is basically a means to an end of the gay movement, and it's a means to change many parts of society, not the least of them being the public schools and the other institutions through the force of law.
What do you think that end goal is?
I think the end goal, the goal is to force the normalization of homosexuality and transgenderism on a population that normally wouldn't do it. Most people don't find, certainly in my experience, don't find homosexuality to be anything but repulsive, without an immense amount of propaganda, intimidation, and force. And this uses the law to do that. Most people would not want their young children to be told at school that homosexual marriage and, if you will, heterosexual marriage are equivalent. They would not want that. But if
wait, just a moment. Now, I have frequently referred to the fact that I'm old, right? I have no problem with being old. I've had some remarkable life experiences. Among them were marching for civil rights, because I was a person who participated in the civil rights movement and marched, not once, but more than once, for pushing the edges of tolerance. Because all of the things that I hear you saying about gay people, I heard said about people of color. I heard people saying they're not really human, they're not like us, we don't want to go to school with them, we certainly don't think they're quite right. And there were many people who came together and said, that cannot be. That is not true, that is not right, that is not moral. And there were people of every color and of every sexual persuasion who stood up against discrimination on the basis of race and laid down their lives so that we could move from there to where we are today. Now, I'm simply saying that when I hear you saying that, I hearken back to those days and I say, wait a minute. It sounds to me like, wait a minute, let me just finish the sentence and then you guys got it, honestly. But I have frequently on this show referenced what I believe is one of the most exciting and important books that I've ever read, and it's written by a Brazilian educator named Paulo Freire, and his basic hypothesis is that the easiest way out of oppression is to emulate the oppressor. And it sounds to me as if what's happening now is that the very people who were at one point oppressed are saying, let's now oppress another group for different reasons, not for racial reasons, but for different reasons.
I would like to interject.
I know everybody wants to.
So I would like to interject quickly, especially when you bring up the issue of civil rights.
Yes.
Because I think it's so important, because I've heard people running for Senate, people in office, and say that they might or they probably would entertain signing it into law because it's a human rights issue and it's a civil rights issue.
I've heard that.
Let me just put it out there. It's not a human rights issue. They have human rights. What they're asking for is special rights, and we're saying they cannot have it. Now, in addition to to move on to the civil rights issue, the Supreme Court ruled in order to be qualified under the protective minority class status, you must satisfy three elements. The first thing you must have is immutable characteristics, meaning that something that you can't change about yourself. Your race, your color, the color of your eyes, the way your lips look, the thickness of your lips, the broadness of your nose. You must have immutable characteristics. That's the first element you must qualify for. The gay community do not qualify under that first one. The second element you must qualify for, you must have suffered financial discrimination. The group must have suffered some type of economic discrimination. And we know the gay community has money. They have a lot of money backing them. They have given $16 million to Obama campaign, and they've given 3.2 to Bill Clinton when they wanted this agenda to come forward. So they do not qualify under civil rights amendments or what the Supreme Court as civil rights. And the third one, in order to be called or classed as a civil rights group, you must suffer some type of political weakness. They do not qualify. So when people like to ride and piggyback and say it's a civil rights issue and a human rights issue, well, I take really
I would challenge each of the points that you made. However, I'm not going to, because callers are calling and saying we're not giving them enough time. Let's get back to the caller. Can I ask that you sum up quickly, sir? Because other people want to get in and they're saying we're spending too much time with individual callers.
Sure.
Hello?
Right.
Please.
Okay, yeah. Well, let me just say, I'm old enough to. I participated in the civil rights movement in the American South in the 1960s. And what I witnessed was just the opposite of what you saw. The segregation that happened was the laws required that. And when they took the laws away, where I lived, the integration happened really quite peacefully. Integrating the races is natural. People don't find it repulsive naturally at all. It was the laws that required it. And the same thing with miscegenation. Miscegenation was required by law. And when they repealed those laws, I don't remember anybody having any trouble with it. It's just the opposite with the homosexual issue.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to let other callers. Father, quickly, yes.
One thing before we continue.
Please.
We want to make mention about something about our press conference that we have coming up.
Yes, press conference and a rally. Let's mention
the rally's coming up.
The press conference is the 24th, which is Thursday, 10 a.m. at Emancipation Garden. And there's a rally march, which will be on August the 24th at 6 p.m., beginning at Alida Cancran School to Emancipation Garden. And following that rally march is a pro-family concert. Everything's free. And so we're inviting people to come out.
And the purpose of the rally, let's make that clear, so people will know whether they want to participate or not.
The purpose of the rally is to bring attention to the issue of that we've been talking about today, and to get out more information to make sure that the public is informed about what is happening. Excellent. and informed about what the candidates are saying, whether they support or do not support. So we ask the public to come out. And in addition to that, on July the 25th, there's a Kids Across America event, a pro-family event at Ivana Udurkin High School at 7 p.m. It's all free. It's a night of laughter, clean fun, sweet fellowship, and traditional family values, supporting tradition.
Again, what time the press conference is again?
10 a.m.
And date 24th.
The 24th, which is Thursday.
Emancipation Garden.
Excellent.
This Thursday.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Did you want to say anything else, sir? Because I've got to move to other callers.
He's gone.
I'm here. I think I'm all set.
You're going to hold on?
I say go to our website, nationalresistance.org, for more information.
Terrific. Thank you so much for your input.
Thank you.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Morning, Dr. Corn.
Good morning.
Good show, Dr. Corn.
Thank you.
But Dr. Corn, hello?
Yeah, we're hearing you. But speak up, because you're fading a little bit.
I could hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you, but you're a little soft, so just speak up.
Okay, well, I want to say to the church group there.
Yes.
I'm glad what they're doing in this community.
Yes.
Because God looking down and God know that we don't want the kind of sexual behavior here. And
well, we have it.
We got to speak against it, not because it come in. We can enroll the majority into it.
No, I know that's what you believe. I know that is what you believe.
That they ain't going to be prosperous for us. That's nonsense. And I want them, I go in the march.
Okay, good.
I go support the march.
Good.
Because the marching against homosexual and same-sex marriage, I know nonsense, but I mean...
Well, I'm telling you, if they have a march against
domestic violence.
Well, no, I've already marched in those. I'll continue to march in those. No, in promiscuity, in having children without being married, in men having 17 girlfriends and having children by all these different women. I'll march in those. I really will. But I'm waiting to see that march.
It's coming.
Okay, well, you let me know, and I'm telling you, I'll be there.
I'll be the first one to tell you, come on, let us come on your show.
Hello, Dr. Gorm.
Yes.
Listen to me, right?
I'm listening.
A man and a woman, right?
Yep.
It's supposed to be together. A woman supposed to make up the mind
she want to marry to the man, a man supposed to make up their mind if you want to marry to the woman.
I wish it were that easy. I really do. But thank you. I know how you feel about it. Let me jump on to my next caller because time's running out and they have to leave in a little while, and I want to get as many calls in as we can.
You gotta use the bell more often too.
Okay, thank you.
But then, right.
Thank you. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, hi, good morning, Dr. Kern. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine.
The one thing with this thing, right? The animals. Witches are the dumbest animal.
I don't know.
Isn't it the donkey?
I don't know.
Do you see them, a male sleeping with another male? No, only humans. So if they are smart, I mean, they're dumb and they're not doing that. Imagine we humans, we gotta be smarter. We're not supposed to jump on our each sex agenda. Same thing, you know?
Well, again, I understand that's what you believe. I don't believe it's choice behavior. But I understand that we can respectfully have different opinions. Thank goodness for that. I would not want to live in a world where we all believe the same thing or saw the world the same way. It would be a very boring world.
It's true, but male going with male is wrong.
It's against nature.
It's against nature. It's against religion. It's against everything. It's not right. You would never see a male dog going with a male dog.
Well, I think someone called before and said that they did see it, but that's okay. Go ahead. That's okay.
They could do anything they
want.
want.
I got you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good day. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes.
Good morning.
Yes.
Yes. You're on the
Techniques used by educators.
Hold on. Okay, there you go. You're on the air.
Yes. Pleasant good morning to you and your guests and listeners.
Thank you so much.
I have a question that for your guests, and certainly I'm pretty sure the listeners might benefit from trying to answer the question better. Let me start with by giving a scripture that I heard for transcends to social life, psychology, emotions, and that is a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And that leads me to this. Under the discussion on separation of church and faith, I believe this nation says that it's a Christian nation. I've heard it.
No, I don't think it is a Christian nation. I think it's a nation where we have a freedom of religion. And certainly the predominant religion is Christian, without question. But we have numerous minority religions as well.
But in the early days, they said it was a Christian nation.
It is not a Christian nation. It is a nation with freedom of religion. Freedom of religion.
Okay, where people differ on that, I guess, as expressed just now. I've even heard from the higher departments of even the presidency has expressed it as a Christian nation, but we can differ there. But let me just go on to say, if people reflect on the church, who is the church? I would say the people are the church. If people reflect on the government, who's the government? I would say the people are the government.
Okay.
A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So if you're in the church and we're in the government, how can we have that separation of church and state? And then the last thing I would ask is, for people to consider theocracy and democracy, rule under divine law versus rule under the law of man. And maybe that would place this in the context of how we might consider this bill that's before us. But the people can not be one person in the church and a different person in the government. So thank you for allowing me to talk.
I appreciate your perspective. Thank you for sharing it. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
And good morning to your panel. What a wonderful panel. Is that Pastor Alba B. Warren?
Yes, ma'am. I'm guilty.
I listen to you all the time. I congratulate you and appreciate you and the other young lady and the other gentleman. Oh, you're so full of knowledge. God is using you in a mysterious way. And the lady that she has done so much research, and before she goes, I'd like her to tell me where she was able to get all those percentages about the medical problem.
Sure, no problem.
Yes. And I want to tell you, keep up the good work.
there is a sin that God will not forgive. You know, he said there's a sin that God will not forgive. But where you said the intimidation, the force, the money, all of those hostage implementation that is being used to hold other nations to conform to same-sex marriage, quote-unquote homosexual, LGBT and all that, which is almost unnatural, and it's not normal. And here it was using about normal. Even just to look at the antics, you can see it's not normal. You understand? And they're being put on us, even as our president has gone to Africa and is holding those nations up there hostage to not give them any aid, just so that they're forcing them to conform to this abhorrent lifestyle. It's every word you can think of. It's repulsive. And I mean, people need to know the word and keep the word sodomy, because this is the long and short of it. When two opposite sex go into bed and lie as to say that they are indeed opposite, which they are not, they're the same, it's unnatural. So I just want to say that I like what you're doing, and you're right. This same-sex issue, see, some folks who want to push that issue will tell you about all the other vices. And all the other vices are still wrong in the sight of God. Nobody excused them. But they're using that as an excuse to say, oh, we the murderers, the people who are the young people who have so many children and whatnot. There's never no time that the church condones those. But this particular issue is such a terrible issue. It's so disgusting in the eyes of God as our reference book, because some people don't believe in the Bible. We have the atheists and we have the agnostics.
But how do you know that this is a worse issue?
Because you know why? Because God put it in our hearts to know. Okay? God put it in our hearts. He didn't leave us undone. He put it in our hearts. He didn't put it in everyone's heart. In our hearts. He didn't put it in. And we're not hating. See, the next thing these guys do is that they say, oh, we hate homosexual. There's no hate.
I didn't hear anybody say that.
No.
I've not heard that for a moment.
Oh, people hate homosexuals and they can't help what they are.
That's not what I'm speaking of.
Because the Bible even said God loves the sinner but hates the sin.
Sure, I know that.
The act, you know? Yes. So, and to say that all about civil rights, this is how it was with civil rights and people fighting for equality and rights and justice. I tend to differ, and I do not would ever believe that the people who are fighting to be a dignified human being would also be fighting for the rights to perform sodomy. I don't believe that. And they can't convince it. But I want to thank you. And the gentleman was talking about the mass resistance. I don't know if he got cut off or if he was finished.
No, let him repeat.
But I want to listen to the balance of with the pastor and the panel that he has here also. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, and keep it up.
Thank you for your call.
Well, the march is August the 24th, beginning at 6 p.m. at Adelita Cancrine Junior High School, and we'll go to Emancipation Gardens. Now listen, in Jamaica they had the same issue. They came out with 25,000 people against it. St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, we want to top that. But you all got to show up.
Okay. Anybody? Well, shall we move on to more calls? Sure. The phone is ringing. Of course. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dr. Kern.
Good morning.
How are you? And good morning to your guest. A very nice program. It's hard sometimes to get in, but I got to commend them. And actually will stick to the point, because you see, you ask sometimes when these people in the States say, what happened? They don't know what happened, what licked them. When you see a tornado goes into a country and just wipes the town away, some people say, but why God? Why me? We got to clean up our act. He comes in different ways, but we need to clean up our act. And thanks the guests that you have here at the station. Very good program. I listen to the program.
Thank you so much for calling.
If I might add real quickly, and I'm about to leave, I have to leave, but I'll be here in spirit. We want to remind people that in any type of sin from a Judeo-Christian standpoint or most religious standpoint, and definitely from a Christian, Judeo-Christian standpoint, God, what He tells us is that look, He doesn't waste the death of any sinner, whether it's any type of sin, but that the person would repent. And what we mean by repent, we want to take it out of the isolation or take the word repentance, or it means a core change of mind that produces a core change of behavior, and for the betterment of the society, the human being in and of himself, that he can not only love God with all their heart, mind, soul, and strength, but to love their neighbor as themselves.
Yes.
So we need to know how to love yourself as well. If you know how to love yourself, then you might be able to properly love God, who is your creator, and then to be able to love your neighbor and in that regard. So again, God doesn't waste the death of any type of sin. We love people regardless of the mistakes they make. We have to administer to that. At the same time, we hate sin because it deteriorates the individual in themselves.
Yes.
And it deteriorates the family, it deteriorates the community and the nation as well. In that regard, and again, so God doesn't wait the death of a sinner, and He just wants to just destroy people and just destroy a place or what have you, whether it be tornado, or what have you, or earthquake, or what have you.
I hear it, and I thank you.
Be very careful. We say God is love, but He is just as well.
Yes.
And He's just and He is love. You can't separate them.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that.
Excuse me.
Thank you for bringing that in. Thank you so much for joining us today.
And you know, people would say that there's hatred that we are spewing, but it's not. It's not. And
would you agree that it's intolerance?
No, it's not intolerance. It's
intolerance for behavior. Yeah.
It's intolerance.
It's a behavioral intolerance, yeah,
not
not for the
intolerance
person.
of people, but intolerance, right?
Yeah, for the behavior. Yes, of course it is intolerance for the behavior, not because we have intolerance for the individual at all, but it's just the behavior of the act. It's the act.
Yeah, I fine. I wouldn't challenge that.
Right.
That's my pivotal place. That's where I hold, and that's where I differ. Is because I genuinely believe in substantive tolerance.
Well, you know, one of the things too, I think that we need to put out there too,
and lack of judgment.
Right. One thing, because you were asking earlier, Dr. Kern, about where was the church earlier, you know, whatever the case would be. But I think as a pastor Warren, if he doesn't stand up and say something, God's going to deal with him accordingly.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We have a responsibility as Christians as well. I mean, maybe rightfully so in the past, things have not been as vocal what the church was. But like I said before, and I stand on this, is that I think this is the time where it's going to change for the churches to be more vocal in the community and more out there in terms of what the community needs and helping the community to be better on a whole holistically. So,
and if it does that, then I could not be more supportive.
Exactly.
I really believe that the church has a much greater role than I have as an outsider, and that I have seen,
right now.
and I have witnessed.
Can I correct something that I said?
Sure.
I stated the time of the march as 6.
Yes.
But it's from 4.
Oh,
4 p.m.
Okay.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
Thank you so much for correcting that. Let's take the calls are still ringing. Good morning, caller. You still there? No. Okay. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Dr. Corner, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Been trying to get in from last night. Dr. Corn,
Yes.
I'm going to jump on both sides. The gay people that for this same-sex thing and your panel. Because, you know, I'm not going to march with them because, number one, they should have been marching out there to make marriage stronger. And if we had done this, basically, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Is that really an excuse not to march?
And I refuse to march because you guys should have been out there marching. And you do a good job on the Sundays and coming to the prisons. So you do a lot of things. But we should have been marching to keep marriages strong, to get our kids. Because when they come out of school and they finish college, they can't find a job. Basically, they can't afford a home. And then how do you keep marriage strong when a man can't support his family? But let's get to the root of it, because I want to do this in less than 2 minutes. Homosexuality, let's go to the origin of it. It comes from the ancient Greek, meaning fame. That's the Greek. And that's where most of the homosexuals started. And then the Latin word sexus, meaning sex, which means romantic, the Romans, because look at the Roman Catholic Church. St. Francis said 1 in 50 priests have molested boys, and that's who they caught. So when are you guys going to go and march against what's going on in the Catholic Church? And then, lastly, let me say this there. This was written in 1974. The black male passivity. It
feminization, meaning that feminizing black men, bisexuality, homosexuality, right? What I'm saying about it is black psychiatrists through the years have been trained to get this head changed. My problem is, since this is a Greek thing, a Roman thing, since it came, the word romantic is part of the homosexual word Greek, and sexus meaning homosexual. If you want to get to the root of it, then you will see where they're locking all little male boys up in a prison to make them homosexuals also. Nobody's talking about that. Do you know what percent of the population in the prison population, not in St. Thomas, because it doesn't really happen here, or St. Croix, in the United States, when Richard Nixon brought his war on drugs, where absolutely in the African communities, they were just using really marijuana and alcohol. But they were the ones that start bringing the drugs into our neighborhoods. Now all little boys are locked up and becoming homosexuals. The problem I have with homosexuality is killing on little kids, where these guys are going up there and saying that, oh, we are looking for the homosexual tendencies of these little boys. It needs to stop. My problem with the church and why I won't march with you guys is you should have been working hard, and I know you're doing a good job. The march should have been on keeping marriages strong when these little kids get out of high school and college, that they could be able to build a home and afford a home. This is what the churches need to subject themselves to. I'm not against you fighting against homosexuality, because it shouldn't be in Africa, because it started with the Europeans, and you could see the root cause of it with the Romans, the Greeks. It had nothing to do with Africa, and if the Africans don't want it there, that's their right. And the first black president of the United States, as he calls himself, he needs to stay out of the affairs of the Africans, because this homosexuality thing is a European thing. Just like the stuff you're preaching, guys. And I will talk about that another day, but I'll give somebody else a turn. I know you'll not answer it, but you have a nice day.
I thank you so much for your call.
Let me comment before you take the next caller.
Yes, go ahead.
In reference to what he was just asking earlier, in reference to the reason why he won't march, because the church should have been out there when it comes to the family unit to begin with. I just have I'll put a question out there to him. If a son who doesn't know a father all his life, and 30 years later the father pops up and say, son, forgive me, give me opportunity to be part of your life from now on, what do you do? Do you reject him? I'm just trying to say, is that a good reason not to march? We may have missed it before, if we did or we didn't, but the thing is, we're standing up now to make a difference. And there's another part that he mentioned in reference to violating the young boys is a reason why he has an issue with homosexuality in a whole, that if he reads the manifesto, the first paragraph says that we're going to take your young men, we're going to take your boys. So that alone should give him a reason. If he does the research, if he looks at the homosexual agenda and the gay manifesto and what they actually desiring, that alone would give him a reason to march just on that issue alone. Forget the fact that church may have missed it in the past. We are here now, we're standing out, and we continue to plant our roots deep in the community where the church has a position and take authority in the community. But this issue is hot, and we want to let the people know that there's no human rights issues that the homosexual doesn't have. What they're requesting for is special rights that they cannot have. And that's the issue.
Well, I see it. I have no problem with it at all, as long as it is dealt with as a religious issue. I don't agree with you. I think there are many rights that homosexuals don't have that are human rights and that are civil rights. But again, we can agree to disagree. Let's take more calls.
Sure.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, Dr. How you doing this morning?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to add a caller to the line. If you could give me a second, let me just get someone to ask to come on the line. Can you start?
Okay.
Very important. Hold 1 second.
We don't have a lot of time.
1 second.
Okay, you got it. Your second is up. Come on, caller. I've got people backed up.
Give him another second.
Can I?
Yes. And I have Pastor Skeppel from St. Croix on the line. I'm going to let him speak.
Okay.
Yes, I am so happy to finally get in. Thank you, Dr. Pence, for allowing us to share our opinion on what we believe.
I'm happy.
I just want thank you so much. I just wanted to drop a nugget on you to let you know, to give you a global view of the issue of same-sex marriage. First of all, there is nobody that is listening to me today that created marriage. Only God created marriage. So because God created marriage, none of us have the right to change. Again, only God created marriage.
Well, again, excuse me. I'm sorry for interrupting. I really apologize. Marriage is a covenant with God. It's a religious institution, and it is a civil, legal institution. So, indeed, it exists. Now, we can argue and we can agree to disagree, but it indeed is a legal, civil institution in the country that separates church and state. It has both headings, and there's no way to deny that.
I fully disagree with you. Fully disagree with you. Marriage started in Genesis chapter 2 where God created a man and a woman. Marriage could never be between two of the same sex. It could only be between a man and a woman. 180 countries out of 193 in the world agree with this. It's only in the United States is this building up storm, but everywhere else in the country has rejected it. That's a fact. 196 countries, 180 of them says no, marriage is between one man and one woman. Those are the facts. That's not any debatable issue. Those are just the facts. When we're talking about marriage, marriage could only be between a male and a female. That's the way God created it.
Well,
you and I created. God only created it. God
I hear you, sir, but I resent, and I have to use the word resent, your attempt to impose your religious views on people that do not hold those views. God is too big to fit in any one church. And
that's not what it's saying.
There are people who do not believe in God, and they marry as well. And they are legally married. Legally married. So let's move on, because we're not going to agree about that. Let's move on, and please continue your discussion.
Okay, here's another issue. In 1974, the DSM-2 stated, the DSM-2, we're in the DSM-5 now. You know the DSM-2 and the DSM-5 said that homosexuality was listen to this, this is the term that they use. They used that it was a mental issue. That's the term that they used.
In 1972, that was exactly accurate. That is what they said.
Okay, and then it changed because, just like the caller said earlier, it changed because of protest by the homosexual community. Not because it was medically proven. It was only changed because of pressure from the homosexual community.
Again, I will challenge that, because I was a participant, and it was not only, certainly the homosexual community influenced it. It was not the only influence. That is simply fallacious.
What was the other influence, Dr. Kearns?
The fact that people believed that homosexuality is not a mental disorder. People genuinely believe that and adhere to it.
Dr. Kearns, I asked the question again. What was the other reason? Because that's what it changed in 1974 at the San Francisco conference. So what else made they change that ruling? What else?
I already explained it. I'm not going to keep repeating myself. We don't have time. There are people coming in. What else would you like to say, sir?
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share. We appreciate you.
I'm delighted. I am delighted to be able to do so. Thank you. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dr. Kearns.
Good morning.
Good morning, Pastor Warren.
Good morning, sir.
And the other two...
well, only one.
Okay.
Father Connor had to leave.
Okay. I have... Dr. Kearns, you remember, you might recognize my voice. Pastor Warren, this is Brother Brown.
Yes.
You might remember me saying sometime more than once before, the church, the pastors, should be calling in some of your programs, especially when we have this kind of discussions. And I also said, when are you going to get a pastor or pastors to put the station as guest speakers so we can discuss this thing further? Biblically and from whatever they've learned from seminary and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I have mentioned that to you several times.
Yes.
And I'm so happy to know and hear these pastors and being a guest this morning on the Alma show also. And Pastor Warren, and for the other lady, the other guest there,
yes.
Ask this question. If this law should pass, we really back up a little bit. Someone told me the other day that if the law passed and the pastors refuse to gay people, the same-sex people, they will be arrested. If this law should pass, both of you, I want to get your opinion. If this law should pass and you refuse to marry these people in the church that you pastor, would you disobey the law of the court, or would you uphold the law of God?
Come visit me in jail.
Amen, Pastor Warren. That's exactly what I told the lady. I said, my pastor, Alger B. Warren, if this law should pass and they arrest him, he will go to jail. That's what I said to her. And I said, any pastor who would then go against the word of God and the law of God and subject to that law, foolish law, I should say, they don't belong in the pulpit.
Okay.
Okay.
It's good to have that clarified.
Yes.
Thank you for raising it.
You know, I don't know how many of you have seen yesterday. There was a segment on HLN where this 18-year-old young man was sexually molesting an 11-year-old boy.
Yeah, and his father came home and caught him.
He beat him to the pulp.
Yep, and he called 911 and told them, come and pick him up. He's sitting here in a pool of blood because I saw him molesting my son.
Yeah.
Come and get him. Yeah, I did read it.
Yeah, come and get him, and when you come, bring an ambulance, so he's going to need it.
Yeah, because he hurt him really bad.
Yeah, and the little boy said he was doing that to him since he was 8.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, do you know how frequently that goes on right here in this territory?
Oh, of course.
And I haven't seen the kind of protest to that behavior that I would like to see.
Yeah, but how often is that brought to the
Public's attention?
To the public's attention. See, people will lay this at the foot of the church, but it's to the people in the community. How often is that brought to the forefront? I haven't heard any news media recently about a case like this. A man beats a man.
That's because the men don't beat up the perpetrators, because we give perpetrators slaps on the wrist and they continue to do it again and again and again.
Yeah,
I bring it up on a regular basis on this show.
Another issue too, I think some people that when these kind of things and these kind of violations take place in their home and with their families, the shame that they feel and the rejection they think that they may get from the community, they prefer to keep it secret and just pray it will go away. And we just want to let them, the church is basically saying,
let me even go a step further, because I can quote case after case after case that I have worked with personally, that I know, where families refuse to believe that this happened. A person took every bit of courage they had to come out to their family and to say, Uncle Joe, has been doing this. And the family said, don't you dare say that about Uncle Joe. If you say that again, you're not going to be a member of this family.
But what we have found, like I said before too, is that, the shame and the rejection they think that they may receive from the community, they prefer not to come out and make it public that this atrocity has happened in their household.
Right.
Because for some parents, they feel that if somebody has to know that this happened in my home, even though I didn't know it was happening, it's going to make me look like I'm not a good mother, I'm not a good father.
Right.
And the shame that comes with that, they prefer to just keep it in the closet than expose it. But I think the church is saying that regardless as to what, we don't condemn you. There's not a judgment on this, but we are here to help you heal in every way possible, and the Word of God can help you do that. And I think that when the church, comes out with this issue and other issues that affects people's lives forever and ever until they make a change, the church is saying that we want to make ourselves available to assist in every way possible, along with the other agencies that could provide psychiatric counseling or whatever the case would be. And we want to keep those doors open. But, people will just get caught up in the shame and the rejection that they just think it in their mind even before they realize it may happen. They just think if I say this, they're going to reject me. And half the times, if you expose it, people embrace you. They say, what can I do to help? Let me cook a meal, because I know you're probably stressed out with everything. Let me cook a meal for the family tonight. That way you don't have to worry about cooking.
Let me only share with my callers, with the person who's on the line, the person who's waiting, and with both of you, that we do have different guests coming at 11. So we really only have about 7.5 minutes.
That's fine.
Okay.
We just stayed here because you asked.
I am delighted that you were able to stay as long as you stayed.
Let me just give you something on the LGBT agenda.
Sure.
What they say about the church, and I'm reading from their document.
Okay.
When conservative churches condemn gays, and we don't condemn gays, there are only two things we can do to confound the homophobia of true believers. First, we can use talk to muddy the moral waters. This means publicizing support for gays by more moderate churches, raising theological objections of our own about conservative interpretations of biblical teachings, and exposing hatred and inconsistency. Second, we can undermine the moral authority of homophobic churches, which we are not, by portraying them as antiquated backwaters, badly out of step with the times and with the latest findings of psychology. Against the mighty pull of institutional religion, one must set the mightier draw of science and public opinion, the shield and the sword of that accursed secular humanism. Such an unholy alliance has worked well against churches before on such topics as divorce and abortion. With enough open talk about the prevalence and acceptability of homosexuality, that alliance can work here. Now that's out of their gay manifesto.
Well, and another part of the gay manifesto that he didn't read on that is important too, their agenda has always been to put themselves out there so much so that it becomes desensitized in the community, because you hear it so much and so often. 35 years ago, we wouldn't be here. Absolutely. We wouldn't be here having this talk show right now. 35 years ago, because they're like, you better, it's not going to be at all. But they're from 1972, when they made the original manifesto, their agenda was to make themselves known, where it's always talked about, it's always an issue, put it in the face as much as possible, where people become desensitized to where you have people saying, well, you know what, hey, let them do what they want to do, I don't care. And we're saying that's not right.
I hear you.
Yeah, we all do. We all do.
Can I just say one more thing?
Very quickly, because we have more callers, and as I said, our time's running out.
Right, and I think a caller had called and asked for where I got the information for the Centers for Disease Control on the medical issue, and you can Google it. Like I said, I don't know if they want me to give the statistical numbers again, but what it basically says is that the men who have sex with men, even though they're small in population, when it comes to transmitting HIV and AIDS, there are over 56% of the population that transmit the diseases over and over again. And like I said, it's not just
it under the Center for Disease Control study on
right? And it was done in 2010.
Yes.
So that would actually take them to that.
Okay. Go ahead, caller. I want to catch a couple more calls before.
Okay.
After answer.
Like someone mentioned about the church should be out there long ago and marching for traditional marriage. I don't know if the caller realized that we have several marches, like March Against Guns and Violence, and that also consists of a lot of Christians who talk about the home, the morality is breaking down, the family is breaking down, and we are against the violence and the marriage, the amount of divorce and all that kind of stuff. All those was involved, and it happened more than once. So it's not that the church is not doing it. We're doing it. Come to church and listen to the radio, the programs in Sunday morning especially. And we hear it. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
Very much appreciated.
Good
morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dr. Conn, good morning to the audience, and of course your guest. I want to say something really quickly from my personal observation, and I'm not going to defend the churches. They're perfectly capable of defending themselves.
I agree.
The community, we need to stop playing. When you look at Juve, when you look at all these different events of entertainment, you can't see the end of the crowd. We're talking about where the churches ain't coming, the churches ain't this and that. But where the churches, we are the bodies of the church. It comes to entertainment, we're always out there. But when it comes to serious things, moral values, standing up for our family, standing up for everything, we're the people. We're scared, we're home, we're covered, we're hiding. Thank you very much.
That's an excellent point. Thank you for making it. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dr. Conn. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I wanted to talk to you. I remember we spoke about a month ago when this issue first came out. And I remember I quickly challenged you over the air to look at the gay manifesto and really dig deep and find out what the gay agenda is. And I want to ask you publicly, have you taken the time?
Yes, I have. And I can respond just very, very briefly. And that I hear it, I've read it, I understand what it's saying, but I think it's very important to keep in mind that that only represents a minor population of the gay community.
Do you believe that, Dr. Conn?
Yes.
How can you say that?
Well, I can only say that's my belief system.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion.
Okay.
Exactly. I'm not saying that as if that were a fact.
Well,
I'm really not.
I think as a church, we just can't sit on the fact that it might be your opinion. We know that that's their agenda, and that's what they stand on, and that's the reason why we take the position that we do.
I understand that. And again, I respect that perspective. We just have very different perspectives.
I also want to encourage you to when you dealing with individuals that don't necessarily agree with your view, you sometimes come off like you're ready to cut them off and you're ready to just end the conversation.
Well,
you're supposed to be able to have an open dialogue.
I try. I really do try. Let me only say that today I have note after note after note saying you'd best cut people off because people are backed up and you can't let them talk that long. So I'm sitting here with one note after another, and I apologize because I think you all know that I really do try to let people speak. But when I get that many notes saying make it shorter, then I have to cut people off.
And we can attest to that, Dr. Curry.
Thank you. I really do believe, and I find it disquieting, and I continue to find it disquieting if we all believe the same thing. I've said that many times. I have nothing but respect for people whose opinions differ from mine.
My question to you before we leave, do you at least agree that one of us may be right and one of us may be wrong? Are you willing to at least
I don't even know how to answer that question. Who determines? I don't believe that kind of right or wrong can be determined by humans. I think that in the eyes of God, God will be the final determinant. It's not up to us to make that judgment. I don't believe in judging.
Do you want to wait until we get to God to find out that you were wrong?
I'm willing to take that chance. So I have no problem with that. I'm willing to take that chance.
Dr. Curry.
I'm sorry. I know that there's more to say. We've run out of time.
Thank you so much.
It has been an exciting show. I can't thank you enough for coming.
Invite us again.
I will, and I want to invite. I promise you, when you have that march that's dealing with the family, promiscuity, not owning one's children, I'll be first there.